All right, guys, we'll start things off. Once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, welcome, and thank you for attending this session today. Today's session, we're going to focus on how you can use the ActivePipe campaign builder to create tailored customer journeys that nurture your contacts. They'll lead to higher engagement, qualified leads, and opportunities. So we'll start. Just pop over here. We'll start with a few things to think about before creating a new advanced campaign. I'll give you a quick overview of what we're going to cover within the platform, and then we'll get into it. So it should be a fairly short session. We'll have time for Q&A at the end. So let me know if you have any questions as we go, and we can answer them at the end. Christine, fairly short. I would expect under half an hour tops, but probably shorter than that. Yes, we are recording this session, so we'll send you a copy afterwards so that you can go back and revisit anything at your own pace. Okay, so to begin, there's a few things to think about before you consider creating a new campaign. The first thing is, what else are you sending? We want to make sure that you're not overlapping, so that you're not saturating your contacts with emails. If you are going to overlap, you need to make sure that your content is significantly different enough and valuable enough on its own to warrant both campaigns. You could, if you wanted to, combine campaigns if it's something that's relevant in both to sections of your contacts. Make sure that your content is relevant and tailored to your contacts' needs. So you're creating content that's relevant to your buyers and sellers separately. Your contacts will be much more receptive if you show that you know what their needs are. Don't go for the hard sell straight away. It's a journey. It's a progressive conversation, starting with brand awareness, informing your contacts and making yourself valuable to them in terms of the information and services you can provide them. You're building their confidence in you, in what you can offer them. And you should also make your campaigns based on interest and interaction so that you're communicating with contacts that you know want to hear from you based on that. So a bit of an agenda. We're going to start by looking at the campaign triggers and conditions to give you a better idea of what each of those can offer you. We'll look at one example of what you can build in terms of that conversation, that email flow, and and then we'll look at the corresponding campaign to go along with that. Like I said, time for Q&A at the end as well. Okay, so we'll jump into the demo account, which you saw a little bit earlier. And I've just created a new campaign, and we're going to have a look at these triggers and conditions. Now, first up, the platform is based or tries to lead you into creating a successful campaign workflow. So when you first come in here, you'll see that some things aren't available to you. That's just so, like I said, you have the correct workflow with your campaign. So the first thing to decide is how you want your campaign to be sending out initially, whether that's an easy schedule, you decide your date and time, or you make it based on a trigger. So to have a look at what those triggers are, the subscription one is fairly self-explanatory. When a contact comes onto your database, you can trigger that email off. The second one, opened email. You can make your campaign send based on a contact opening an email. So that comes to that interaction or interest-based trigger. You can make it based on, in a similar way, if a contact clicks on a link. So it's the next level of interaction there. They've opened the email, but they've also clicked on a link. So if they've shown interest in a particular article you've sent, you could follow up with them with more relative content in that vein. We have an attended OFI trigger here. So that's basically obviously not so applicable at the moment, but if you note that a contact has attended an OFI in your system and that comes through to ActivePipe, that can trigger an email, usually a thank you or a feedback email, something in that line. And tag changed. So this can be either an added or removed. So for instance, if you have someone that's recently had the buyer tag added to their profile, you can trigger an email based on that intent or new interest. So you could start sending them your latest listings, etc., based on that change. So once you've selected your trigger or your scheduler, I'll just do subscription. You'll then be able to open up to your delays, your actions, and your conditions. So in this case, we'd probably start with an email. So we've got on subscription, we're going to send these contacts some emails, or an email, I should say. But at that point, we could also make it conditional. Or sorry, we've sent the email and then we could look at our conditions. So we've sent one email, we'd want to use a delay if we're looking at an email, a campaign flow of whatever time period you choose. So perhaps a week, and then we can have a look at our conditions. In terms of what those conditions are, we have if opened. So you'd only like to send this campaign to people that have shown interest by opening your previous email. And you can select what that email is. Or if they did not open it. So an example would be you've invited them to an investor evening and they didn't open it, so you'd like to give them another opportunity to open that. Obviously be careful with sending that too many times. If they haven't opened the first one, you want to make these mostly based on interaction and interest. We have if clicked property. So if a contact has shown interest by clicking any properties in email that you've sent, so it could be your sold listings perhaps. So if you choose your sold listings email here, obviously not this one, then you might presume that they're looking at perhaps selling themselves, so that you could follow up with content in relation to that. And you can select your time period, how long ago or did they show that interest by clicking on the link. You can do the reverse, did not click, for something that suits that purpose as well. If attribute. Now this one can be, you could use for several things. You can see here that you can choose any field. A good example of this would be if you're chasing addresses for your contacts so that you can send them properties in their area. You can look up this or choose the field of street address and then choose the field does not have a value. So then you could add a call to action within your email for the contacts to update their profile information, including their address, and then you can start sending them properties based on their address. So that's an example of how you could use if attribute, or if they have a certain attribute or don't have a certain attribute. So there's other conditions you can set within that if they suit what you're trying to do. If tagged, so again, this is a way of requalifying people after the initial trigger. So if we've chosen a tag, if tagged, or chosen a tag in our recipients, this is a way of further down the track requalifying that perhaps this person still has that tag. So if someone's a potential seller and I've got a delay of a couple of weeks, we want to check if they're still a potential seller when we send out this next email. So that's a way that you can do that with the if tagged condition. I'm hoping that's all making sense at the moment. If you want to give me an indication or a yay or nay, that'd be awesome. And lastly, if sent email. Now this is a good one if you would like to send out perhaps based on a trigger. So someone's become a buyer, they've had a buyer tag added, so you've triggered that email based on that tag, and then they've later had that trigger removed, sorry, that tag removed. If they were to then have that tag re-added, you might want to send them an email or you might not. So if you've already sent them an email, you would not want to send your email to those people again. So you would choose was not sent and choose that particular email. So you're not sending them the same email over and over again. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, you can choose your time period of up to 30 days. So you're not sending them repetitive content based on that condition. Okay, so that's all of the triggers and conditions. Let me know if you want me to go over anything in more detail. If not now, we can do it at the end of the session. So from there, we'll have a look at an example email workflow. We'll go into the emails, and we have 3 that we've set up here as an example. Now, as I said, it's just an example of what you might be able to create. It's not the only way by any means, but we have here, now this is where we talk about the conversation or the journey. So the first email here is an introduction. It's about your brand awareness. It's about educating your contacts and raising interest in what you can offer. So a few informative articles and a nice soft introduction, not the hard sell like I spoke of before. Then as we get into the second email, and I'll show you how these all link through in the campaign in a minute. The second email, if we have a look at the preview, is building the confidence in your contacts, in your expertise, perhaps with some testimonials, some recent successes, and the call to action at the top if they would like to touch base with you, if they're already interested based on what you've given them already. And then the third email in the series, have a look at the preview there. We'll target those people that haven't already shown interest and give them another opportunity, showing the value and services you can provide them with another call to action within that email. So like I said, just an example of what you can do. And if we go and have a look at the corresponding campaign to that, you can see here, we're going to start this at a certain date and time, and we're going to base it on if our contacts have the potential seller tag. So the emails were tailored towards promoting those appraisal requests. So we want to tailor that to our potential sellers. We want to promote them making contact for that appraisal. So we're only sending to our potential sellers. So we're tailoring that content or tailoring that, that reach. And we're sending them that first email with an introduction to the brand and building that brand awareness. We're going to delay that. However long we choose to do that is completely up to you, up to 30 days. And then we're going to make the second touch point based on them showing some interest. So like I said, qualifying that engagement and making sure that you're sending content to people that have shown that they're interested in what you're sending them. So we're going to, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can do it based on if they did click a link. You can do it based on if they opened your first email. Obviously, if they've clicked on a link, they've opened your email. So it's a next level of interaction in that case. So did click on that potential seller's email 1 on any link, and then we're going to send them that second one. So in that second email, we have the testimonials and the confidence building and the call to action within that as well. Once we've sent that, we'll delay again and then give an opportunity to those people that did not click on the call to action in that second email with the call to action is that link there. We're going to give them another opportunity with the third email with showing what we can offer the contacts in terms of the products and services. But if they have already shown interest by clicking on the link, we're not going to resend to those people. So like I said, it's just an example of what you can create. While I'm here, I'll point out that if you want to create a campaign workflow that's quite extensive, quite long, you can consider breaking this up. So if you would like to do these in sections, you can have your first email as one campaign and then have your second email triggered off the first campaign. So triggered off them opening the link in the first campaign or opening the first email. And in that way, if you ever find that you want to drop a touch point for some reason, it's much easier to do that. You also have individual campaign reporting, so you can see which touch point is performing the best, which one is getting the best interaction. Because in terms of splitting it up and removing touch points, you'll find that you can only ever remove that last module. And that's, as I said to start with, that's so that you always end with a complete and successful workflow. So if you want to remove your second touch point, you'd have to remove your third and then put the third back in once you've removed the second, if that makes sense. So there is merit in splitting them up as well. Obviously you have more campaigns in your list, so it's completely up to you, whatever workflow works best for you. If you prefer to have less campaigns and make it nice and neat, up to you, but you can consider splitting them up this way as well. Okay. So that's a very brief introduction to using advanced campaigns. I am going to open it up to Q&A. If there is any questions, please let me know now, and we'll have a look at anything in more detail if you'd like to. Chris, if you have different suburbs that you want to tailor to, you can do that in your email. So you can have a look at the property filters within certain panels. Or if you're looking at, sorry, I'm just rereading a question, go into campaigns like the attribute pertaining to that suburb. So if I delay, if attribute street address is equal to, or sorry, is equal to, yes, you could just send to people in a certain suburb and then have in your email panel, so your property panel in your email, properties that relate to that address. So yes, that is something you can do. You can get really in depth with how you use your conditions and filters. So the easiest way is to go into the email builder and base your panel on near a contact. So it's probably a different webinar. It's more about email building. I'll quickly have a look in there to show you what I'm talking about. And you can always have a look in the knowledge base to get a bit more information on this as well. But I'll quickly show you what we're looking at. So if I was to add a property panel, turn on my auto feed and define properties. In the contact tab, you've got a located near contact option. So you could make it the same postcode, like distance, so within whatever distance you choose, or same city, which equates to suburb in Australia and New Zealand. So does that help with that query, Chris? Hopefully. Awesome. Okay. So like I said, you can get more in depth in the email builder as well to create the same, tailor the same email, same content. All right. Any other questions while we're here? Christine, there is a couple of articles in the knowledge base that go through all of the triggers and all of the conditions. Like I said, what we've looked at here is just an example of what you can do. So there's no step-by-step for that campaign and those emails we've just been through. But these will give you a refresher on what each of them can do or could do for you. So have a look in the knowledge base and have a look for conditions and triggers. And by all means, you're not on your own here. So if you go in and create a campaign, you can't see it here because I'm in demo, you'll see a help button in your account. So you can click on that. You'll need to save your campaign and then you can start a live chat with one of the support team and they can have a look over your campaign to make sure that what you've built is going to work for you and is going to do what you want it to do. So that's another option for you as well. And not just in relation to campaign building, that live chat option is there for you anytime. So use it whenever you need to. Okay, any other questions while we're here? No. We've popped up a link in the chat box just to get some feedback on the webinar series. If there's something else that you'd like to see us cover, please take a second to give us some feedback. That'd be amazing so that we can talk about the things that you want to know about. Otherwise, if there's no other questions, it was a very short session. But like I said, the knowledge base is here for you. We've also got the training videos as well, which might help you with that step-by-step that you were looking for, Christine. So you can have a look at the training videos in there, and you'll find other step-by-steps in the knowledge base as well. Otherwise, if there's, I'm hoping that's all making sense or made sense and been helpful to everyone. You could give me an indication, that'd be awesome. No news is good news. Awesome, thanks Christy, good to know. Again, thanks for coming today and attending this session. Like I said, fill out that feedback so that we know what you'd like us to cover next time. And we'll hopefully see you at the next webinar. Thanks guys.